Would you be able to help me with, I feel like I have like just one kind of wobble I'm working my way out of, which is, I guess, a belief that like my physical body is going to disappoint me. Like I get these really intense negative worries about like my body, like, I'm going to hurt myself at the gym working out, or like I actually won't go for months, or my hair is going to fall out. And I don't know where this is coming from.
Wait, you don't know where it's coming from? Do you watch television?
I don't want
Do you spend any time with other people?
Actually, I watch zombie movies to get in the vortex. I really love.
Would you describe this as an increasing concern? Would you call it chronic?
Yeah.
So that means it's an active vibration. But it didn't get active on its own. Can you recall ever not feeling that way? Do you recall being on the playground when you were little and feeling invincible?
I think so.
Been a while.
Yeah.
Do you acknowledge that your thoughts have power?
Yes.
And does it seem logical that the very thought about the thought is perpetuating the thought?
Yes.
And so that's why, over time, we say to you things like, go general. So let's go general relative to this. So you start the thread.
Okay.
Give us an example of, and it's all right for it to be the negative momentum. Give us an example of the negative momentum thread that brings you to that acute place of worry.
Like how it starts in the day?
Whatever, jump in anywhere that seems logical.
I don't know what you mean, like where to jump in.
Well, you presented to us a rather well-developed thought relative to your concern about your physical decline. Mm-hmm. And we can't possibly go back to the beginning of how that got started, even though that's what your previous conversation was about. Yeah. There's not enough time in your lifetime to go all the way back to sort that out. So we just want you to jump in anywhere along the trail where that concern seemed valid to you, where something happened, you saw something on television, you talked to somebody, you had a personal experience, a sensation in your body, something happened that brought you to the conclusion that my body is going to fail me, my body may already be failing me, there's evidence of my body failing me, and my hair is falling out. So jump in anywhere.
I'll look at family members that have issues, and I'll be like, oh, my hair could fall out because, that happened to my father.
All right, so in and of itself, that doesn't seem like a very significant thing. And it seems like a reality that you're facing. In other words, it seems valid. In fact, it's so valid that people talk about it all the time. It's such a reality that it's easy to begin to believe something like that. But this is the question that we want to ask you. And it's a question that maybe even an audience like this is not prepared to hear from us in the way that we mean for you to hear it. Do you have the ability to think a thought other than the thought that almost everybody else thinks about the same subject?
Yes.
Your inner being does. That's why when you think it and you get crossways of your inner being, you feel the discord within you. So the next question is it likely for you to think a thought that's different? In other words, which thought is easier to think? The thought that almost everybody thinks, or the thought that is different?
The worrisome thought would be easier.
Because there's momentum about it in your society. And why else? Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's go to the deep, dark shadows of this. Why is it easier to think the thought that everyone thinks about that than to think the more preferred thought or the better feeling thought?
Because of...
You don't want to look stupid. You don't want to think a thought that current reality seems to be disputing. But you have very short experience in this. You can't remember how life at one time was. Most of you do not even recognize or reflect much upon the enormous improvement in your lifestyle and way of living, just the amount of years that most of you are living these days in comparison with previous time. Things are getting very, 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 very much better. And yet, you tend to cling to those worrisome thoughts and keep them active within you. And we have no issue with that. We just want to point out to you That the reason that you are defining it as worrisome, the reason that it doesn't feel good in your gut, the reason that your emotions make you call it fear or concern or worry, is because you are contrary to the thought that your inner being is thinking about the same thing. And this is the thing that we want you to hear really, really, really well from us. We'll even offer extra volume to make sure that maybe you do hear it. Just because most everybody else thinks it doesn't make it the right thought. And just because they're proving they're not right thought with evidence doesn't mean it either, because you get what you think about. Doesn't that just seem like the most logical thing in the world? So we know you sort of have a dilemma, most of you, because we're standing here asking you to think thoughts different than your reality is pointing to. And the reason that we do, and the reason that we are doing it with such volume, is because we understand that you as an individual or as a society or as a civilization or as a mass consciousness cannot affect change if you keep thinking the same thoughts. You didn't come to face reality, you came to create reality. And most of you get here, you come to create, and then right away you start facing it. I've come to create reality. Oh, look at that. 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 Oh, that's not good. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's not good. We say, don't look there. Don't look there. But you want to look there because there's something nice about the tangible. There's something nice about the see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it. You're captivated by it. You want to catalog it and pigeonhole it, and you want to make monuments about it, and you want to remember the worst of times, and you want to teach them to your children, and you want to have memorial days to point out the very worst of times, and you never want to forget, because you say, if we don't turn our attention to the awful things that have happened, then we are sure to repeat them. And we say the absolute opposite of that is true. It is your attention to the unwanted that causes you to continue to regurgitate them. And so, we really have some strong questions to put to you, to all of you here today. Do you believe that you create your own reality, and can you create it apart from what currently is? And what does that mean about what currently is? What does it mean? If you can create a reality that's different than the reality that is, what does that mean you have to do in regards to the reality that is? Ignore it. You've got to take your attention from the reality that is. But you're all wadded up because the reality it is the way you prove your worthiness. It's the way you acknowledge the struggle that you've been living. It's like you carry this portfolio around with you. Here I am, I'm the sum total of everything. I didn't get good grades in school or whatever. In other words, we want you to realize that it's a fresh start every moment. It's a fresh start every moment, because in every moment there is a new relationship between where you are and where you want to be. And if that was your playground, if you could accept that your playground is this relationship between where you are and where you want to be, and not about where you are and how you got there, that would go a long way in changing that. Where you are and where you want to be, because that's what's forward. That's where Source is. That's how Source is looking with you. You see, Source acknowledges you here and now, but spends no time looking into the shadows about how you got here, because it is irrelevant. How you got here and what you lived is irrelevant. Here you are, and that matters, and it's important, because here you are, and here is all that you've been asking for through all of that. So it's sort of like, let's say you're going to take a journey and you're going to go across this nation. And so you leave Boston and you start heading west. And your destination is, you're coming to Siesta and Del Mar. And so you're on the way, you're on the way, you're on the way, you're on the way. And most of the way you're not there. Most of the way you're not where you intend to be. So let's say that you get halfway across the nation and you're still looking forward to where you want to be. Do any of you stand in the middle of this nation and look back at where you've come from? So people say, how you doing? When do you think you're going to arrive? Well, let me tell you how it's been going. Yeah, well, I get that, but when are you going to get here? Well, soon enough, but let me tell you about how it's been going. I left Boston and I got on Interstate 90 and I just started heading west, and we had lunch, and there were a lot of people at that restaurant when we got there, and they were eating things that I wouldn't want to eat, but the menu was quite broad, and so there were things that I thought I might like to eat. I ate some of them that was extremely salty. There was something that was really, really salty. It was, and the waitress, I think she was on drugs because she didn't seem very focused on what she was doing, and that meal should have only taken us an hour, but we were there for 2 hours. And when we left, no one was really satisfied. And we drove a little further, and the weather was good. Thought we'd do a little sightseeing, but kind of really wanted to get on our way. But there's lots of ways that you can get there, and so took some back roads and found another place to eat because we were still a little bit hungry. And we say, you're frittering your story away. You're frittering your life away. Nobody's very interested in that. And you're not even very interested in that. And all of your power is from where you are forward, and none of your power is from where you are backward. None of your power is from where you are backward. And everything that you've lived equals, and this is what we want you to hear. We know the story seems silly to you, but it's sort of the way you are living your lives. This is the part that we really want you to hear. Where you stand in relationship to all that you've been asking for, that's where all the juice is. And that's where the source within you is focused. And when you focus otherwise, you disempower yourself. In looking back, it's like sticking a stick in a wheel that's moving really fast. And the faster the wheel is moving, then the more dramatic the experience is when you stick the stick in it. Have we convinced you at all that you create through your thought? And do you believe that your thoughts are productive? This is the thing that we're coming round to explain to you in a way that will become more tangible for you. Because here you are in your physical bodies, and here we are talking about the vibrational aspect of you, and we know it must twist your brain into a little bit of a knot because you're wanting to think about the tangibles, and we're wanting you to think about the intangibles. You're wanting to think about the conditions and the circumstances, and we're wanting you to think about the unconditions and the uncircumstances. We're wanting you to find a thought that's pure in its emotional basis. We want you to live your life emotionally, which is unconditionally rather than conditionally. We want it to be about how life feels, not so much about how it looks or what it does. We want you to be more beings instead of doings. We want you to just be a little more vibrational. We want you to be more thoughtful and not so active in the doing part. And a shift will take place in you once you play with this in your mind a little bit, because as you begin to feel the vibrational currency flowing through you, and you begin to feel the momentum of the perspective of source flowing through you in any moment in time, you'll begin to recognize that these things like time and space are perceptual, that these things about prosperity, about having and not having, are perspective. They are perceptional. It's about vibrational alignment. It's about vibrational allowing. It's about focus. So, if you accept that as you've been living, you've launched rockets, and that there is a vibrational version of you, we wanted so much for you to accept the reality of that vibrational version that we manifested it for you in words by calling it something. We called it for a while a vibrational reality. You didn't like that very much. And then we began calling it a vortex, because it's a vortex that law of attraction is gathering all of the components to. And it is gaining momentum and speed and size and depth and prowess and everything. It's becoming. It's a state of becoming. And as you begin tuning to it, you can be one of the cooperative components that's drawn into it too. So when you allow yourself to be of the vibrational frequency of your own desire, then law of attraction will put you and your own desire in the same place where you can then begin translating it or perceiving it into reality. These are odd words, aren't they? We'll say them more simply. You can turn thoughts to things. That's how you turn thoughts to things. You turn thoughts to things by becoming harmonic with the thoughts, steadily with the thoughts. That's why You're doing exactly that same thing when we talk about your concern about your physical decline.